Diatonic harmony. Let's talk about it. So hardly a week goes by without a student, sometimes multiple students, asking me, hey, what's the deal with this Nashville number system thing I've been hearing about? Or maybe the question is more along the lines of, what chords are in this key? Or how do I know what notes to play in this key? Well, what they're really trying to ask here is how to understand or how to think about diatonic harmony or maybe functional harmony. Those are somewhat interchangeable depending on who you ask. Now, this is a very important idea and often misunderstood. To be fair, this is primarily a guitar player problem. Not just any guitar player, but that guitar player that hasn't studied some music theory and guitar method and maybe learned to read some notes. And it's not the guitar player that has a really great ear and has transcribed a bunch of tunes and can hear how chords and melodies work together. It's that guitar player that kind of falls in that no man's land, where they don't really have a teacher, they've never studied, maybe academically, and they haven't really done a whole lot of playing on their own with other people with recordings. They're in kind of a weird spot. They can probably read some tablature and they probably know some chord shapes, but they can't really hear how melodies are derived from a particular tonal center or key, and they don't really hear how chords are functioning. Before we can grasp this incredibly important concept, there's something that's fundamental, and that is we must understand the sound of and the means in which we can construct a major scale. Now, there's a pattern or formula or recipe or whatever you want to call it to the major scale. And it consists of whole steps or half steps. If you're playing guitar, a whole step is 2 frets, a half step is 1 fret. So a great way to approach this is pick any note on the guitar, any string, any fret, doesn't matter, and follow this formula. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Now, you should be able to hear that you will have in fact played the major scale. If you're sitting on a keyboard, you could pick middle C, it's a white key, and play every subsequent white key until you return to C, an octave above. And you'll notice that there's a pattern here as well. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. On a keyboard, a whole step is skipping over a black key and playing the next white key. If there's no black key in between the white keys, that's a half step. One time I had a dude who will remain nameless who said, I don't get it, why do I have to memorize this pattern of whole steps and half steps? It's confusing, doesn't make any sense. Why can't they all just be whole steps? And I said, they can be, but it would sound like this. I think that's super cool if it's the sound you're going for. However, it's not the most useful sound. A step that is nothing but whole steps gives us a very kind of odd sound, and also, probably most importantly, doesn't produce a set of chords that we would like to hear. They're not very useful. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about harmony, right? If we can create a melody using the 7 notes in the major scale, any major scale, we can also create harmony, we can create chords. So for each of the 7 notes in the scale, we can construct a chord. So one way maybe to think about this is if melodic intervals are horizontal, C, D, E, F, G, harmonic intervals are vertical. So starting with C, we add a third, E, we add a third to that, G. So the first chord in the key, C, E, G, a C major chord. We go to the next note in the scale and repeat the same process, D. To that we add a third, F, and another third, A. That gives us a D minor chord. We go to the third note in the scale, another minor chord. 4th and 5th, those are major chords. 6th is minor, and 7th is diminished. Okay, so just as the major scale has a pattern, the chords or chord qualities have a pattern. They are as follows: major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. So we have 3 major chords, 1, 4, and 5, 3 minor chords, 2, 3, and 6, and the oddball, maybe, the 7th chord, which is a diminished chord. right? So those are the 7 chords in the key. This is true for any key. The key of C, the key of G flat, the key of E. It doesn't matter. We have these same chords, same chord qualities, arriving in the same order, no matter what key we're in. If this is the case, then we can talk about melodies and, probably more importantly, chord progressions, and not be tethered to the tyranny of any one key. We can simply talk about how chords function or progress within a tune. Okay, this idea is crazy important for a few reasons. One, it becomes very easy to communicate and to memorize chord progressions. You might say, oh yeah, this song is 1-4-1-6. Immediately know what chords you're talking about, right? In the key of C, that would be C, F, C, A minor, 1-4-1-6. Makes communicating chord progressions very efficient and makes remembering them much easier. It also is really great for transposing from one key to the next. Here's an example. Say you're on a gig and you're about to play, I don't know, Don't Stop Believing. And that chord progression, by the way, is 1-5-6 minor 4. The original key is an E. What if the singer says, wait, I can't sing in the key of E. I have to put it in the key of G. Well, then you can simply think 1-5-6-4 in the key of G. Transposing based on numbers or based on how the chord functions within the key is much easier than trying to wrap your brain around what a transposition would look like if you're just thinking of chord shapes or chord symbols, I guess. Now, that's very convenient to communicate chord changes, to memorize chord changes, and to transpose from one key to the next. But the most important thing of thinking about chords this way is starting to hear how they function, or in other words, how they work together with one another within the context of a song. This is really what it's about. So once you're able to start to hear the relationship between maybe the 1 chord and the 4 chord, or maybe the 1 chord and the 6 minor chord, then you're well on your way to playing by ear. You can really start to actually anticipate the next chord change in a song, even if you've never heard the song before. I think it goes without saying that this is a critical step in developing your ear if you hope to improvise over chord changes, maybe in a soloing situation. Okay, so I hope that gives some background and some information about diatonic harmony or functional harmony or chords in a key, however you want to express it. It's just another way of saying melodies and chords that are built exclusively from one scale. In almost all cases, it will be the major scale. However, there are exceptions to this. Now that we've got that figured out, how do you get good at this? Well, there's a couple of ways. The first is to transcribe tunes. So listen to a song you know, write down the chord changes, right? If it's in the key of G, you'll write down the chords in the key of G. G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, F sharp diminished. Once those are in place, go through and analyze the song. So the 1 chord going to the 5 chord, back to the 1 chord, then to the 4 chord. I don't know, do that for like 10 songs. And very quickly, you'll have this thing figured out. Last thing I'll leave you with, most popular music songs, so we're talking about country, rock, pop songs, only use a few chords in the key. In fact, they don't even use all 7 chords in the key. It may just be 3 or 4. And moreover, there's only kind of a handful of progressions that make up like 90% of popular music. Really common chord progressions include 1, 6 minor, 2 minor, 5. That's often just referred to as a turnaround or simply just the changes. There's also the axis progression, which is 1, 5, 6 minor, 4. There's a basic blues progression, which just consists of 1, 4, and 5 chords. So there's all kinds of great progressions out there, but once you start to hear some of these, you can very quickly identify them as they're used over and over and over. And again, you're not listening to be able to tell that something's in the key of C immediately or in the key of E flat. So it's not about perfect pitch. It's more about being able to hear how chords work together or function. Okay, I hope this clears things up a little bit. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to chat about this directly. Good luck.